"You should be washing dishes." My husband laughed at the company party, and all eyes turned to me. I felt my blood boiling as I tried to maintain my composure. Raphael had been drinking for the past hour, becoming increasingly loud with each glass of champagne. This wasn't the first time he'd humiliated me in public, but doing it at my workplace crossed a line I couldn't ignore. The annual company gala was being held at the Grand Meridian Hotel in downtown Manhattan. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the elegantly dressed attendees. I had spent weeks preparing for this event, not just with my presentation for tomorrow's shareholder meeting, but also making sure I looked the part of a rising executive. "Seriously, Amanda, what do you even do all day? Push papers around and send emails?" Raphael continued, his voice carrying across our corner of the ballroom. A few of my colleagues standing nearby chuckled uncomfortably. I could see the pity in some of their eyes, while others seemed almost pleased to witness my humiliation. I had met Raphael 7 years ago at a friend's wedding. Back then he was charming, supportive, and seemed genuinely proud of my ambitions. We married within a year, and I thought I had found my partner in life. But something changed after my promotion to senior analyst 3 years ago. My success became threatening to him, and the supportive husband slowly transformed into a bitter critic. "You know, Raphael, maybe you should try it sometime. Might give you some perspective," I replied quietly, trying to maintain dignity without causing a scene. "Oh, come on, it was just a joke," he scoffed, turning to a junior colleague from my department. "She's too sensitive, always taking everything so seriously." I excused myself and headed toward the restroom, needing a moment alone. The marble countertop felt cool against my palms as I leaned forward, examining my reflection. My carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the weariness in my eyes. How long had I been living like this, making excuses for his behavior, shrinking myself to make him comfortable? When I returned to the ballroom, Raphael was at the bar ordering another drink. I decided to network instead of returning to his side. After all, that was the purpose of these events. I spotted Jennifer from the marketing department and made my way over. "Amanda, there you are!" Jennifer greeted me warmly. "I was just telling David about your presentation tomorrow. We're all excited to see what you've put together." "Thanks, Jen. I've been working on it for weeks." I smiled, grateful for the positive interaction after Raphael's comments. "Your financial projections for the Thompson account were brilliant," added David, the CFO's executive assistant. "I heard the board was impressed." I was about to respond when the room's ambient noise began to fade. People were turning toward the main stage, where our CEO, Richard Morton, was tapping a microphone. "Good evening, everyone." Richard's deep voice filled the room. "Thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate another record-breaking year at Morton Financial Group." Applause rippled through the crowd as Richard began his annual address, highlighting the company's achievements and acknowledging key team members. I listened attentively, occasionally glancing toward Raphael, who seemed bored and was checking his phone. "And now," Richard continued, "I'd like to acknowledge someone who has been instrumental in our success this quarter. Without her innovative approach to the Thompson acquisition, we wouldn't be celebrating a 20% increase in our portfolio value." My heart started racing. The Thompson acquisition had been my project, but surely he wasn't going to. "Amanda Parker, where are you? Please join me on stage." The crowd parted as people looked around for me. Jennifer nudged me forward with an encouraging smile. I felt dozens of eyes on me as I made my way to the stage, including Raphael's suddenly attentive gaze. Richard extended his hand as I climbed the 3 steps to join him. "Amanda has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills and financial acumen during this complex acquisition," he announced to the room. "Her strategic vision and ability to navigate challenging negotiations have set a new standard for our firm." I stood there, overwhelmed by the unexpected recognition, as Richard continued praising my work in front of the entire company. From the corner of my eye, I could see Raphael's face, his smug smile replaced by a tight-lipped expression of shock. "In fact," Richard said, turning to face me directly. "I'm pleased to announce that effective next month, Amanda will be joining our executive team as our new Vice President of Acquisitions and Mergers." The room erupted in applause. Colleagues I'd worked with for years were smiling and clapping enthusiastically. Some looked surprised, others impressed. And there was Raphael, standing frozen by the bar, his champagne glass suspended halfway to his lips. "Would you like to say a few words, Amanda?" Richard asked, offering me the microphone. I took the microphone with steady hands, surveying the room filled with my colleagues and, of course, my husband, whose face had drained of all color. The silence that hung in the air was delicious, a stark contrast to Raphael's loud mockery just minutes earlier. "Thank you, Richard, for this incredible opportunity," I began, my voice stronger than I expected. "And thank you to everyone who contributed to the Thompson acquisition. Success is never a solo endeavor." As I spoke about teamwork and future visions for the company, I maintained eye contact with various colleagues around the room, deliberately avoiding looking at Raphael. This moment was mine, and I wouldn't let his presence diminish it. I'm honored to accept this position and excited to lead our team into what promises to be a transformative year for Morton Financial, I concluded. More applause followed as Richard shook my hand again. "We're having breakfast tomorrow with the board to discuss your transition, 9 a.m. at the Wellington," he said quietly. "I'll be there," I promised, still processing the enormity of what had just happened. As I stepped down from the stage, colleagues converged around me, offering congratulations and wanting to discuss future projects. The energy had shifted dramatically. People who had previously seen me as just another mid-level manager were now engaging with renewed interest and respect. After about 20 minutes of conversation, I finally made my way back to where Raphael stood, now nursing what appeared to be a whiskey. "Vice President," he said flatly, "when were you going to tell me about this?" "I didn't know myself until just now," I replied honestly. "Richard mentioned he was pleased with the Thompson deal, but I had no idea he was planning this." Raphael scoffed. "Convenient timing, wasn't it? Right after I made that joke." "This isn't about you, Raphael," I said, keeping my voice low. "This promotion is the result of months of hard work and late nights, which you've consistently complained about, by the way." "So now you're going to be what? My boss?" he sneered, referring to his own position as a regional sales manager in a subsidiary of Morton Financial. It was how we'd met, at a corporate mixer 7 years ago. Back then, he'd been on a faster track than me. "No, I'll be heading a different division," I explained, though I knew that wasn't his point. His insecurity wasn't about reporting structures. It was about the shift in our personal dynamic. "We should probably head home," Raphael said abruptly. "You'll want to be well rested for your important breakfast meeting." His words dripped with sarcasm. "Actually, I'd like to stay a bit longer. There are people I need to speak with about tomorrow's presentation." I wasn't ready to leave my moment of triumph to go home to what would inevitably be a tense, argument-filled evening. "Fine. I'm calling an Uber," he said, pulling out his phone. "Don't wake me when you get in." I watched him walk away, his shoulders stiff with wounded pride. Part of me felt guilty, not for my success, but for the small spark of satisfaction I'd felt seeing his reaction. When had our relationship become this competitive battlefield? When had his support turned to resentment? "Everything okay?" Jennifer appeared beside me, 2 champagne flutes in hand. She offered one to me. "Thanks," I said, accepting the drink. "And yes. Well, no. It's complicated." Marriage usually is," she replied with a knowing look. "For what it's worth, you deserve this promotion. Everyone knows how hard you've worked." I took a sip of champagne, letting the bubbles dance on my tongue. "Raphael doesn't seem to think so." "Raphael isn't the one who closed the Thompson deal," Jennifer pointed out. "Look, I've been married for 15 years. The secret is supporting each other's wins, not competing over them." I nodded, though I wondered if it was too late for Raphael and me to learn that lesson. 7 years of marriage, and the cracks had been showing for at least half that time. The remainder of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and discussions about my new role. By the time I slipped into an Uber at midnight, I felt both exhilarated and exhausted. The city lights blurred past the window as I leaned back against the seat, mentally preparing for what awaited me at home. Our apartment was dark when I arrived, except for a small lamp in the entryway that we always left on when one of us was out late. I slipped off my heels at the door, padding quietly across the hardwood floors to the bedroom. Raphael wasn't asleep, as he'd implied he would be. He sat on the edge of the bed, still in his dress shirt and slacks, staring at something in his hands. As I got closer, I realized it was a framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Bali, young, carefree, and genuinely happy. "Do you remember this?" he asked without looking up. His voice lacked the edge it had carried earlier. "Of course I do," I replied, sitting beside him but maintaining a small distance. "That was a perfect week. You know what I remember most about that trip?" he continued, finally looking at me. "How we stayed up all night on the beach, planning our future together. You talked about starting your own investment firm someday. I was going to be your first investor." I remembered that conversation. The plans we'd made under the stars, barefoot in the sand, seemed like a lifetime ago. "What happened to us, Amanda?" His question hung in the air between us, heavy with all the things we'd left unsaid over the years. "Life happened," I replied simply. "We both changed." "I changed," he admitted, surprising me with his candor. "Watching you succeed while I stayed in the same position year after year, I didn't handle it well. That doesn't excuse how you've been treating me," I said firmly, "especially tonight. You humiliated me in front of my colleagues." "I know," he sighed, placing the photo on the nightstand. "And then the CEO made me look like an idiot by announcing your promotion right after. Perfect timing." I felt a flare of anger. "Is that what you think? That Richard promoted me to spite you? He doesn't even know you, Raphael. This was about my work, not your ego." Raphael's jaw tightened. "That's not what I meant. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "Do you have any idea how it feels to watch your wife surpass you in every way while you're stuck in the same position for 5 years? I would have supported you," I said quietly, "the way you used to support me. Remember when I got my MBA? You threw me a surprise party. You were proud of me then." "That was different," he muttered. "How? How was it different, Raphael?" He stopped pacing and looked at me, vulnerability briefly replacing the resentment in his eyes. "Because back then I still believed in myself. I thought my big break was just around the corner. But year after year, watching you climb while I stagnated." He trailed off. I stood up, exhaustion washing over me. "I need to get some sleep. I have an early meeting." "Right. The breakfast with the board," he said, the edge returning to his voice. "Don't let me keep you from your important new life." I changed in the bathroom, removing my makeup and staring at my reflection. The woman looking back at me had achieved everything she'd set out to accomplish professionally, but her personal life was crumbling. I wondered when success had become a zero-sum game in our marriage, when my wins became Raphael's losses. When I returned to the bedroom, Raphael had changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt and was sitting up against the headboard, scrolling through his phone. "I think we need to talk about where we go from here," I said, sitting on my side of the bed. "But not tonight. Not when we're both emotional and tired." Raphael nodded without looking up from his phone. "Sure. Whatever you want, VP Parker." I chose to ignore the jab. "Good night, Raphael." I turned off my lamp and lay down with my back to him, feeling the distance between us that had nothing to do with physical space. Sleep came fitfully, my mind racing with thoughts of the morning's meeting and the uncertain future of my marriage. When my alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., I felt as though I'd barely closed my eyes. Raphael's side of the bed was empty, but I could hear the shower running. I checked my phone to find several congratulatory texts from colleagues and a message from Richard confirming our breakfast meeting. As I scrolled through my emails, a notification from the bank app caught my attention. A transfer of $25,000 had been made from our joint savings account last night at 1:17 a.m. My heart raced as I opened the app to check the details. The transfer had gone to Raphael's personal account, the one he'd maintained separately from our joint finances. We'd always kept some money separate, but major withdrawals from joint savings were something we discussed first. At least, that had been our agreement. The bathroom door opened, and Raphael emerged fully dressed in a crisp suit I hadn't seen before. "You transferred money from our savings," I said, cutting straight to the point. $25,000. Why?" He paused, adjusting his tie with deliberate slowness. "I needed it." "For what? And why didn't you discuss it with me first?" "The way you discussed your promotion with me before it happened," he countered. "That's completely different. I didn't know about the promotion. You actively made a decision to move our money in the middle of the night." Raphael picked up his watch from the dresser, fastening it around his wrist. "I have a meeting with Stanley Cooper at 9. The name caught me by surprise. Stanley Cooper was the founder of a rival financial firm, known for aggressively poaching talent from competitors. "You're meeting with Cooper Financial? For a job interview?" I asked, connecting the dots. "For a partnership discussion, actually," Raphael replied with a hint of smugness. "I've been developing a client portfolio strategy that Cooper is very interested in. The money is for initial investment in the project." I got out of bed, trying to process this information. "So you're leaving Morton? Starting something with Cooper? And you didn't think to mention any of this to me? Would you have supported me?" he challenged. "Or would you have told me all the reasons it wouldn't work? How Cooper has a reputation for burning bridges, how I should just stay in my safe going-nowhere position at Morton. That's unfair," I protested. "I've always encouraged you to pursue opportunities. What I object to is you taking money without discussing it and making major career decisions without even mentioning them to your wife." Raphael checked his phone, deliberately casual. "Well, now you know. I'm pursuing an opportunity, just like you. Isn't that what married people are supposed to do? Support each other's careers?" His words echoed our earlier conversation, twisted now into something bitter. Before I could respond, he grabbed his briefcase from beside the door. "I need to go. I don't want to be late for Stanley. Good luck with your board meeting." He paused at the doorway. "Oh, and Amanda, wear the gray suit. The navy one makes you look like you're trying too hard." The door closed behind him before I could respond. I stood in our bedroom, feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath my feet. Raphael had always been critical lately, sometimes cruel in his comments, but this calculated move felt different. This felt like retaliation. I showered and dressed, deliberately choosing the navy suit Raphael had disparaged. As I applied my makeup, I tried to compartmentalize my personal turmoil, focusing instead on the meeting ahead. This was my moment, the culmination of years of hard work. I wouldn't let Raphael's behavior overshadow it. The Wellington was an upscale restaurant known for hosting power breakfasts for Manhattan's business elite. When I arrived at 8:45, Richard was already seated at a corner table with 3 board members: Harrison Wells, the chairman, Sophia Chen, head of international operations, and James Baker, our chief legal counsel. "Amanda, right on time," Richard greeted me warmly, standing as I approached. The others followed suit, each offering congratulations as I took my seat. "We were just discussing the Thompson acquisition," Harrison said once we were all settled. "Masterful work, especially navigating those last-minute demands from their legal team." "Thank you," I replied, settling into the conversation with practiced ease. Their counsel was trying to protect their interests, but I knew there was a compromise that would satisfy both parties. The breakfast proceeded smoothly, with discussion flowing from the Thompson deal to my vision for the acquisitions department under my leadership. I presented ideas I'd been developing for months, strategies I'd hesitated to share before having the authority to implement them. "Your approach to targeted mid-market acquisitions is exactly what we've been discussing at the board level," Sophia noted approvingly. particularly your focus on sustainable tech companies. I've been tracking that sector for 3 years, I explained. The growth potential is extraordinary, especially with the right integration strategy. As the meeting continued, I found myself fully engaged. The morning's confrontation with Raphael temporarily pushed to the background. This was my element: strategic thinking, clear communication, building consensus among stakeholders. By the time we finished our coffee, I had the board's enthusiastic support for my first 100 days plan. "There's one more thing we should discuss," Richard said as the server cleared our plates. "The Cooper situation." My heart skipped a beat. "Cooper? Stanley Cooper has been approaching several of our key people," Harrison explained, "trying to build a competing team. We've managed to retain most of them with counteroffers, but we're concerned about information security." "Have you heard anything through your husband?" James asked directly. "We know Raphael has been dissatisfied with his position for some time." So they knew. Perhaps everyone knew about Raphael's resentment except me. I'd been too focused on my own career to see the signs. "Raphael and I don't discuss confidential work matters," I said carefully. But even as the words left my mouth, I realized how naive they sounded. This morning had proven that Raphael and I weren't discussing important matters at all. "Of course," Richard nodded, exchanging a glance with Harrison. "We just want to be cautious. Cooper has been particularly aggressive lately." As the meeting concluded, Richard held me back. "Amanda, there have been rumors that Cooper is courting Raphael specifically because of his connection to you. Be careful, both professionally and personally." My phone buzzed with a text from Raphael. "Meeting with Cooper went well. We need to talk tonight." At the office, my new nameplate read Amanda Parker, VP of Acquisitions and Mergers, but I couldn't fully enjoy it. Jennifer brought lunch, and I confided in her about Raphael's withdrawal from our savings and meeting with Cooper. "Cooper's been trying to build a competing division to directly challenge Morton's acquisition strategy," Jennifer said, concerned. Exactly what we were developing, I realized aloud. When I arrived home that evening, I found Raphael cooking in the kitchen. "Risotto," he said without looking up. "Your favorite." "What's the occasion?" I asked cautiously. "Can't a man cook for his wife after her promotion?" "He can, but it's surprising after withdrawing money from savings and meeting with my competitor." We sat down to eat, and Raphael shared his news. "Cooper offered me Director of Strategic Development with a 40% salary increase." "Congratulations," I said, trying to sound sincere despite my concerns. "There's more. The position would be in their Chicago office. They want me to build the team from the ground up." "Chicago?" I repeated. "You're considering moving to Chicago?" "We're considering it," he corrected. "It would be a fresh start for both of us." "Raphael, I just accepted a VP position at Morton yesterday. Cooper would hire you in a heartbeat, probably at an even higher position." "That's not the point. I've built my career at Morton. And after what you said about resenting my success, this timing seems suspicious." Raphael's expression hardened. "So you think I only got this offer because of you? That I couldn't possibly have earned it on my own merit? The day after I get promoted, you suddenly have an offer that would require me to leave my position. It feels like you're trying to take this moment away from me." "I've been in talks with Cooper for weeks," Raphael snapped. "The timing is coincidental." "Weeks? You've been interviewing with a competitor for weeks and never mentioned it?" "The way you mentioned your promotion plans," he shot back. "I told you I didn't know about the promotion." Raphael pushed his plate away. "This is an incredible opportunity for us. A chance to start fresh in a new city. What's holding you back?" "My career that I've spent years building. My promotion that I earned through hard work. The fact that you're asking me to give all that up instead of celebrating my achievement." "So your career matters more than our marriage?" Raphael asked quietly. "That's not fair. You're the one who's been undermining me for years, making snide comments, and now trying to manipulate me into leaving a job I love." Raphael stood abruptly. "I need some air." Before leaving, he added, Cooper needs my answer by the end of the week. Think carefully about what you want. This could be our chance to fix everything that's broken between us. After he left, I received an email from Richard. Impressive first day. By the way, heard Cooper made a move on Raphael. Let me know if you want to discuss. Richard knew about Cooper's offer before I told him. Had my promotion been genuine recognition or a strategic move to ensure my loyalty during Cooper's poaching attempt? When Raphael returned 2 hours later, I was still on the couch. I've been thinking about Chicago, I said. Did you tell Cooper about my work on the Thompson acquisition, about the mid-market strategy? Raphael hesitated. I may have mentioned some general concepts, nothing confidential, but enough that Cooper could position you to compete directly with what I've been building. You used our marriage to advance your career. That's rich coming from you, he scoffed. Did you ever consider how your advancement made me feel? Did you ever turn down an opportunity out of consideration for my pride? Should I have deliberately held myself back to protect your ego? We stared at each other, 7 years of partnership crumbling in the silence between us. I'm not going to Chicago, I finally said, and I think you should take the job. Just like that? You're choosing Morton over our marriage? No, Raphael. I'm choosing self-respect over a relationship that's become toxic. You don't support me. You resent my success. You use information from our marriage for your professional gain. Raphael looked shocked. You're willing to end our marriage over this? This isn't just about Cooper or Morton, I explained. It's about years of belittling comments, public humiliation, and undermining my accomplishments. Last night at the party wasn't an isolated incident. It was just the most public example. Raphael's shoulders slumped. I never thought it would come to this. Neither did I admitted. But we can't continue this way. It's destroying both of us. What if I turn down Cooper's offer? Stay at Morton? I shook my head. The problem isn't where you work. It's that you've become someone who resents my success instead of celebrating it. And I've become someone who's always walking on eggshells around you. No, we talked late into the night, finally acknowledging painful truths we'd been avoiding for years. By morning, Raphael had agreed to take the Chicago position, and we had begun discussions about separation. 3 months later, I sat in my office at Morton, reviewing the latest acquisition target. My team had exceeded projections under my leadership, and Richard had mentioned expansion opportunities abroad. My phone buzzed with a text from Raphael, now settled in Chicago. Signed the divorce papers today. Courier will deliver your copy tomorrow. Wish you all the best, Amanda. I mean that. I took a deep breath, feeling a complex mix of sadness and relief. The gold band I'd stopped wearing weeks ago had left a faint tan line that was finally fading. Jennifer knocked on my open door. Ready for the Henderson meeting? Absolutely, I replied, standing and gathering my materials. As we walked to the conference room, Jennifer asked, "Dinner tonight to celebrate closing the Henderson deal?" "I'd like that," I smiled, realizing I was finally looking forward to the future again, on my own terms.